Good evening. This is the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso moved to expose Nigerian politicians accused of aiding bandits. Kwara community protests as residents allege strange helicopter dropped armed men before latest killings. Court bars Pat Utomi from establishing shadow government. And Peter Obi to join ADC after Anambra Guba elections. Details now. Thank you for staying tuned. The World News at 6 begins with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso saying they are preparing to expose the names of prominent Nigerian politicians aiding bandits in the northwestern region of the country. The three neighboring nations said they are working on confirming the identities of political figures accused of links with criminal groups in the region, according to Dushwel Elsa. Authorities further explained that information has already been gathered on certain political actors said to be involved in supplying weapons to the bandits. The authorities said they already have the names of some top Nigerian politicians and have arrested some individuals involved in supplying weapons to the bandits, adding that investigations are already underway. The announcement comes against the backdrop of years of killings, abductions, and displacement carried out by armed bandits across Nigeria's northwest region. In Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, and Kaduna State, villages have been repeatedly attacked, homes destroyed, and farmers forced from their lands. Meanwhile, residents of Ajasekbo and the neighboring communities in Kwara South today staged an angry protest, accusing security operatives and unknown gunmen of colluding to unleash a new wave of bloodletting across the senatorial district. At the center of the allegation is a claim that a helicopter repeatedly circled the area and reportedly dropped armed men who later carried out the deadly attacks. The protesters, some with injuries, said the community has been pushed to the brink by what they called an orchestrated campaign of terror. Some of the protesters said the violence escalated few days ago, with local vigilante members singled out in a campaign of lethal precision. Local sources said the chopper hovered over remote bush parts before dawn, returning several times. Residents insist the men who disembarked, heavily armed and organized, later found out to attack villages and ambush travelers. If true, the claim raises alarming questions about how the assailants acquired sophistication to use aerial insertion tactics. Aleshin Loye Sahid, one protest leader, accused security forces of abandoning the people when they were needed the most. Sahid and other protesters said vigilante members who had been protecting their communities were deliberately disarmed under the guise of servicing their weapons. 2 days after giving up their arms, the community says those men were hunted down and killed, a sequence they called suspicious and indicative of betrayal. The Lagos State Police Command has arrested a security guard identified as Amos Kinney for allegedly abducting a 2-year-old boy in the Elemore area of the state. The public relations officer of the command, SP Abimbola Adebisi, who made this known in a statement issued today, said the incident occurred on September 21 around 11:50 p.m. Adebisi said the child's mother reported to the Elemore Police Division that Kinney, employed as her security guard, had fled with her son and her mobile phone without consent. According to the police, the suspect later used the stolen phone to contact the boy's father, demanding a ransom of 5 million naira for the child's release. However, police operatives swiftly launched an investigation, arresting the person who stood as guarantor for the suspect before his employment and taking him in for questioning. Adebisi stated that as pressure mounted, officers sustained surveillance and intelligence-led operations that forced the suspect to release the child unharmed. The manhunt continued until September 23rd, when operatives of the tactical squad, acting on credible intelligence, successfully tracked and arrested Amos Kinney at his hideout within the Elemore area. Spokesperson said the Commissioner of Police CP Olondare Jimo condemned the act, describing it as a callous and unacceptable crime against an innocent child. The CP reiterated the command's commitment to tackling violent and capital crimes across Lagos State. Meanwhile, officials of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, alongside a team representing the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association, Pengasan, are attending a reconciliation meeting organized by the federal government. Members of Pengasan, under the leadership of President Festus Osifo, along with the representatives from the Dangote Refinery management, are currently assembled in the conference room of the Minister of Labour and Employment for the scheduled meeting. Also in attendance are the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mohammed Dingyadi, the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Nkiruka Onyejocha. The union and the private refinery are in a dispute concerning unresolved labour matters. The aggrieved union members had declared a nationwide strike over the alleged illegal sacking of 800 Nigerian workers by the management of the Dangote Refinery. Members of Pengasan today blocked the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and NPCL premises in Abuja. The action was taken in response to instructions from the association's National Executive Committee to initiate a nationwide strike. In judicial cases, the Federal High Court in Abuja has barred Professor of Political Economy Pat Utomi and his associate from going ahead with a plan to set up a shadow government in Nigeria, delivering judgment in a suit instituted by the Department of State Services DSS today. Justice James Omotosho held that the creation of a shadow government or cabinet is unconstitutional and alien to the country's presidential system of governance. The court order effectively restrained Utomi and his group from pursuing the initiative and upheld the argument of the DSS that Utomi's action portends danger to the peace and security of Nigeria. The judge said he had perused the country's constitution and there was no part that supports the formation of a shadow or parallel government. Citing Section 1, Subsection 1 and 2 of the 1999 Constitution, the judge said the Constitution is supreme and binding on all citizens, irrespective of political divides. The judge also affirmed the jurisdictional power of the court to entertain the matter. The national president of the Obedient Movement, Yunusa Tanko, has said that Peter Obi will decide on fully joining the African Democratic Congress ADC after the November 8 Anambra governorship election. Tanko disclosed this in an interview while reacting to a call by ADC's National Publicity Secretary Bolaji Abdullahi, urging all coalition leaders to resign from their current parties and register fully with the ADC. He explained that the ADC had earlier granted Obi a waiver to carefully consider his options, stressing that the former Labour Party presidential candidate would not be compelled to abandon his current platform until the right time. Meanwhile, the federal government has declared Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 as a public holiday to mark Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunjiojo, announced a declaration on behalf of the federal government congratulating all Nigerians at home and in the diaspora on the historic occasion. Meanwhile, in a statement by the ministry's permanent secretary, Dr. Magdalene Ajani, Tunjiojo called on citizens to uphold the patriotic spirit, unity and resilience that have sustained the nation since independence in 1960. He also encouraged Nigerians to maintain faith in President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, which focuses on national rebirth, economic transformation and collective prosperity. The minister expressed confidence that with the cooperation of all Nigerians, the country would continue to grow stronger in peace, progress and development. He concluded by wishing Nigerians a happy and memorable 2025 Independence Day celebration. You're listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll now go straight into the news analysis segment. Joining me to discuss issues on the World News at 6 this evening, I have legal luminary Barrister Fred Nzako. Welcome to the World News at 6 and thank you for joining me today. Good evening, Barrister Fred Nzako. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you need to be a little audible.
All right, thank you. Is it better now?
Yes, it's slightly better, yes.
Thank you so much. Let's quickly get into the issues that we need to actually discuss this evening, starting from political cases. There have been different reports in the media talking about what area Peter Obi or which party Peter Obi will declare for ahead of 2027. Some reports say he's to dump the coalition, is to also dump the Labour Party and join the PDP, while some are saying, of course, he remains with the Labour Party, while the National president of the Obedient Movement, Yunus Atanko, has come out to say that he will decide if he will fully join the ADC after the November 8th Anambra governorship election. How does the governorship election impact on Obi's declaring for the ADC? I mean, can't he declare now before the elections? Why wait until after the elections?
Well, that is his political decision, and is his personal decision. He must have his reason. Why he feels so. We don't know why he took that decision, and we don't have the capacity to query his decision. So what is left is for the people to understand whatever reason he gives, and whatever reason he gives is personal to him. That he must have done his political calculations to determine what is best for him. I do not. I can't guess why he took that decision.
You're saying he must have made political calculations. By your own calculations and estimation, what really is the best path for him to take? You have a very huge stalwart like Atiku in the ADC, and he has more or less been campaigning for himself. When last week he came out and said, "Oh, to the Yoruba people, I'm your brother. You have to support me in 2027 because I'm married to your sister, who my wife is a Yoruba woman. You should support me, and if you support me in my government, I'll give you juicy positions." Isn't that a way of actually campaigning for himself before the ADC primaries? So shouldn't Obi also be thinking of his political future and where best to cast his nets?
The difference, what makes Peter Obi different from every other politician, I must say this with all sense of modesty, is that Mr. Peter Obi thinks about the interests of Nigeria more than any other candidate. With due respect to every other candidate, the man who dreams, who wakes up, who speaks, who does everything in his political journey for the interests of the Nigerian people, especially the downtrodden, the voiceless, the masses, is Mr. Peter Obi. So his antics will be likely different from other people's own. Yes, every politician would like to campaign for himself. It is the right of every politician to campaign for himself or to campaign for a candidate of his choice. But what is very critical is not only the political interest of the politician, but the interest of the Nigerian people. Because Nigeria and the interest of Nigerian people will now mean the interest of Nigeria as a nation. Nigeria is like a mother that has a lot of prodigal children that needs help. Nigeria is like is a country that is massively blessed, but the people are suffering the midst of plenty. And Nigerians know this, and they want somebody who will come and change the tide of the misfortune that has befallen the Nigerian masses. And they know who they are asking for, and they know who they believe will do that. And they are not missing words about it. Yes, every politician will say, "I can do it." But Nigerians do not believe that every politician can do it. 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said he could do it. And then he got his mandate. Even though as controversial as it is, but he's run away with it. And today, Nigerians are saying, this is not what we expected.
You know, Barrister Fred Nzako, the ADC recently issued an ultimatum to Atiku Abubakar, former SGF Babachir Lawal, and other prominent figures within the party to regularize their membership status or risk losing recognition within the party. That is, they have to declare fully that they have both their feet planted in the ADC, or the ADC will push them out, or the ADC will cease to recognize them as members of the party.
Belonging to a political association is of choice. There is no need for such ultimatum. So if such ultimatum came, one should look at it with every suspicion. One should look at that ultimatum with every suspicion to know exactly the voice of whom they are speaking from. Because we wouldn't want the expression of the hand of Esau and the voice of Jacob. Because many political observers have continue to say that the party at the center is doing everything desperately, everything to frustrate any meaningful opposition. And when such ultimatums start flying around, it is important to view that with every suspicion and know exactly whether Jacob was speaking with his voice or whether he was speaking with the body of Esau. It's very, very important because you freely decide which party to join and freely decide when to leave, and nobody compels you. It is one of the rights of every politician, in fact, every citizen. Freedom of association. A political party is an association of people of like minds. So it is said. So you can't compel anybody, oh, you must come and register now, or you cease being our member, or we cease recognizing, or we cease recognizing you. No, it doesn't follow that way. Something must be wrong somewhere. So we are watching to see whose voice that we had, because it is still confusing. The voice that we had in that ultimatum is still confusing, and we are watching.
All right, Barrister Fred and Zako, while we're talking politics, some Nigerians believe that the answer or the solution to some of our problems is electoral reforms, while others believe it is constitutional reforms. But it seems Professor Patutomi and some of his associates think that the best thing would be to set up a shadow government, or what acts as a parallel government, to checkmate the government empire in Nigeria. But the Federal High Court in Abuja has banned him from doing anything like that, saying that the Nigerian Constitution does not allow for the formation of a shadow or a parallel government. This plan, is this actually what will put the government of the day on their toes, or is it a recipe for chaos and anarchy?
Let us be very clear with our choice of words. Shadow government does not mean parallel government. So if you say shadow or no, he is talking about shadow government. A parallel government is physical, but a shadow government is not physical. A shadow government is a government in the mind. But a parallel government can be government that you can see, and it is physical. Even though both words may seem the same, but in etymology of linguistics, the words are not the same. In political practice, the words are not the same. Professor Patutomi talked about shadow government and not parallel government. That distinction is very important to be made. And then the court only gave an order based on the petition brought by the SSS, State Security Service, when they, out of their busybody nature, delved into a matter that really does not involve anything close to state security. Shadow government is done all over the world. It is a government of the mind. And it is from that government of the mind that you can bring out intellectual, constructive criticism of the wrong policies of the government on ground. And any government that is worth its onions will not want to be against a shadow government, because it is a feedstock of constructive criticism where there are divergent views that you can harvest from in order to fine-tune your policy and programs. So if you see any government that is panicky when it hears about shadow government, then that government has a lot of skeletons in its cupboard. Also, Tommy talked about shadow government, where people of intellectual capacity will sit together, and then for every policy of government that they felt was wrong, they will bring alternative views. And anyone they felt was right, they will consolidate it and even give it further vent in a manner of its implementation. So I think that it was a meddlesomeness of SSS to run to the court to go and stop Professor Tommy from forming a shadow government, as if shadow government meant another government that will come and overtake the current government.
But the court has banned him. Whatever it was that he meant, the court has barred him from any such plans or thoughts.
Because the court, one way or the other, the court must say something. Whatever you ask the court, one way or the other, the court will say something. I do not know how the matter was argued in court. I do not even know whether Professor Tommy was represented at all because he didn't he did not need to go to that court at all because of course there was no issue on ground. There was no issue to be joined in court. So it was more or less a panic mode that SSS activated and went to court. So if they now went and got an order of court that the shadow government should not be formed, they're wasting their time because it's as good as asking somebody not to think. So I can tell you that that order is just a waste of the time of the court, precious time of the court,
All right.
because it's equal to asking somebody not to think, which is of course is not possible. Shadow government is a think tank. It is not a government on ground.
All
It's
right.
not a parallel government, and it is not an opposite government. It is what it is: shadow government of the mind.
All right, then let's quickly look at the situation between Dangote Refinery, Pengassan, and other petrol unions in the country at this moment. They're currently in a meeting convened by the federal government to actually reconcile both parties. Pengassan says Dangote Refinery sacked 800 Nigerian workers to make way for foreign workers due to unionism. Now, the federal government has waded into the situation. The Minister of Labour and Employment is currently in a meeting with representatives of Dangote Refinery and representatives of Pengassan. Pengassan was picketed the NNPCL headquarters in Abuja today. I want to get your perspective on this issue. On one hand, yes, there is that issue between Dangote Refinery and the Pengassan, but on the other hand, I understand that this is a big issue, but if you recall from the issue with Fuba and Wike, the federal government, President Tinubu waded into it. On almost every issue, you have the federal government wading into it. Can the ministries in charge solve this situation without the federal government actually coming into it?
Well, the ministry is the ministry of the federal government now. So when they say federal government has waded into something, it is not the president that will wade into. The president does not represent the federal government. He is only part and parcel of the federal government at the apex. And the minister is a function, is an officer of the federal government, and the ministry and all those who are involved are all working for the federal government. So when the federal government has said they have stepped in, they can step in through the ministry. They can step into the office of the Secretary to Government of the Federation. They can step in to even the Vice President office. They can even, like Mr. President, depending on the weight and the dynamics of the issues. But what is important between Dangote and Pengassan is a very critical one, you said, and I agree with you because it involves a lot of things. It involves economics of private sector development. It involves the law of labor and trade unionism, and it involves the morality of asking people to leave their work. It's a potpourri of a lot of issues. You wouldn't have enough time to x-ray all of them, but in a nutshell, the Constitution allows freedom of association. Section 40 has said so. The Labour Act, Section 9, has also made the provision that anybody who goes into unionism should not suffer on account of that. Section 1 and 2 of Trade Union Act also made provision that any employee is authorized to belong to a trade union. But then again, these are all laws that were in effect when government was in control of many enterprises in the country. Underline that word. After the indigenization decree of 1972 and another one of 1977, when federal government took over a lot of businesses, especially even in the oil sector. You remember that even the first refinery built in this country was built by an oil conglomerate, but it was indigenized by Nigeria. And so many other enterprises were indigenized. And on account of that, federal government became a very key player in the economy and in the various industries. Now, those laws were in place because most of the corporations were public corporations. Today, federal government is no longer in the business of managing any business because it has proven to be a failure in the airways, in the banking, in the shipping lines, and every other place that the federal government had business investment. they had all collapsed. And then the dynamics and the paradigm has shifted to private sector initiative. We now operate what we call laissez-faire economics. That is an economy that is driven by the private sector, regulated by the public sector, and essentially the federal government will have very little input into the happenings in those industries. But the laws are still active. So that is why I'm saying that a lot of these laws need to be amended to be in tune with the current realities. And that is where we are facing challenge. If Dangote, as a private businessman, has invested his over $20 billion, there's no way he will allow unionism to come and derail his investment. Meanwhile, that investment, it will take time before he even gets his return. Look at it from the experiences of the past. The four refineries in Nigeria have all been run down by people of Pengasan and others who are involved in the oil sector. They cannot exonerate themselves from the terrible comatose situation of the refineries that we have in this country, because a lot of the managers at that level are members of Pengasan. So with that knowledge at the back of Dangote's mind, there's no way he will allow Pengasan. He will consider a third-party intruder into his business. Now there's a clash between the need to support private sector driven economy and the need to also respect the laws, the existing laws that may seem as moribund. I, for one, I see some of these labor laws as moribund that need to be addressed to bring them in tune with the modern realities that we have today. And that is where there is that clash. If Dangote employees were told from day one that part of the condition of their service is that they were not going to belong to union, and if they now went ahead to belong to any union, that means they have breached the terms of the contract. So now again, the law of contract will now come in. So you now see that there is a lot of things to be decided. But at the end of the day, Pengasan should not hold Nigerians on the ground because of the business decision of one man called Dangote. Now they have going to shut down all the gas pipeline networks that supply gas to even the energy generating companies, the Gencos. And how do you do that? That should be treated as a sabotage. If they are shutting down the gas pipelines, sending gas to Dangote Refinery, it's as bad as that as it can be. Now it is made worse.
Dangote Refinery issued a circular saying they would no longer be selling petroleum products in naira. Would you say that was actually to dissuade, or to put an end, or to try to counter what Pengasan and these other petrol unions are doing?
Look, as a nation, we shall not allow unionism to kill private enterprise. That is my position. Before Dangote Refinery came on stream, I know how precarious our energy situation was. And with the coming on stream of this refinery, Nigeria breathed a heavy sigh of relief that at least our energy security is no longer as precarious as it used to be, as threatened as it used to be. There is every need to protect that industry. Forget the jealous statements made by some people that Dangote is taking too much from the public. Nobody can take it away from Dangote that his investments in Nigeria are enriching the economy in several ways. So anybody who is planning to thwart Dangote's efforts is the one that does not love Nigeria.
You know what Nigerians want to know now is, will this war between Pengasan and other petrol unions and Dangote lead to an increase in petrol price? The federal government has said they will ensure that doesn't happen, but Nigerians are scared that they may have to buy fuel for higher than they already are.
If they frustrate Dangote from the feedstock that he will refine, naturally the price will go up, because the simple economics of demand and supply will now play its ugly head. Prices have been a bit stable because supply has been stable. The very moment you disturb the supply chain system, naturally prices will go up, because the holders and other middlemen who will want to take advantage of the situation to make jumbo profits, you cannot stop them. These are the realities. And that is why the government acted very fast. And the meeting is important. Even if it involves the office of the president to step in, it is also very important. Because the Pengasan is holding on to moribund labor laws. But Dangote is also holding on to the fact that he has a contract. The law of contract says that you have to obey the contract that you have entered into. If they are entered into a contract that they are not going to belong to unionism, and then if they do, that means they are bringing third party ants to come and feast on Dangote's investment. And he will not allow that. With the hindsight of what has happened to the moribund Nigeria four refineries. And going forward, before I drop, I want to suggest that those who are holding that meeting, they have a window of opportunity that will be a win-win for everybody. And that is why we talk about goodness of alternative dispute resolution mechanism. Dangote can allow, maybe ask to allow the staff to form internal union outside that of Pengassan. What Dangote does not want is he does not want the filthy fingers of Pengassan and the Lupeng in his private business. And you cannot grudge him that because that is his private business. There are many universities in Nigeria today that are private universities. The lecturers don't belong to ASU. There's a template already on ground. They don't belong to ASU. And the country and the system is running. So if nobody can come and convince me or convince Aliko Dangote that his system will not run if his staff don't belong to Pengassan or to Nupeng. And that is where he stands. And I squarely stand with him. And anybody who understands the discipline of economic management in a laissez-faire economy must understand what Dangote is trying to avoid. By the time these people come in as a union and begin to drag him around, they will delay the process of his business enterprise. And of course, that business will no longer yield the expected return. This we must understand. So, in a way to have a win-win situation, yes, a staff alone cannot stand the pressure of his employer. But when they come together, they can have one voice. That voice must not include outsiders. They can have internally one voice, in which case, let the staff of Dangote form their own internal union.
Internal unions is the answer to this problem for you.
Is the answer to the problem. That is the suggestion by President Zago, and I stand by it.
All right, then let's quickly talk about the insecurity in Nigeria. It's quite unfortunate. Over the weekend, there were so many calls and so many tears in Nigeria, with many people saying that some local government areas in Kwara State were under attack. Residents of that place and indigenes of that locality were calling on the federal government to ensure that they repel these attackers. Right now, we're getting information that residents of that community are claiming that a strange helicopter dropped armed men before that killing occurred. That the helicopter kept hovering around the community more than once. It circled the area and reportedly dropped armed men who later carried out the deadly attacks. That's what the residents of this place are claiming. Now, in the same breath, we are getting reports that Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso want to expose some Nigerian politicians and political heavyweights who have been accused of funding, aiding, and abetting banditry and terrorism in Nigeria. On this particular situation, there was a time UAE released 400 names. How come it seems that other countries know the perpetrators of violence and terrorism in Nigeria, but Nigeria does not seem to know the problem?
Who told you that Nigeria does not know the problem?
So they don't just want to solve the problem. There's no political will. Is that it?
That's all. Remember what Senator Adams Oshiomhole said, and he said it on the floor of National Assembly. And it was a very bold and strong statement that when he was the chairman of APC, that he sent somebody to go and conduct a primary election somewhere, and the general came back and told him that the bandits and the terrorists will not allow something to happen. And then he went along the line of their conversation, the general told him that they all know who are the bandit sponsors. The current governor of Zamfara State has accused the immediate past governor Matawale, who is the current defense minister, of supporting and funding and sponsoring banditry in the state. But Mustafa, former CSO to General Sani Abacha, had said that the large deposit of uranium in Sambisa Forest was the major reason why there was terrorism in that flank of the north. So what does it tell you? That anywhere where there is large deposit of solid minerals, there is preponderance of banditry in that place. So there is a nexus between deposits of solid minerals, especially those costly ones, uranium, platinum, gold, and the rest, and incidences of banditry. And there are insinuations and the clear images of aircraft landing in the bush. And they call it bush bush airport. Landing in the bush, not just helicopter, aircraft that will land in the bush. They have airstrip in the bush where they land, take away all these solid minerals and fly direct outside
But
Nigeria.
Vice President Zako, that brings that makes us ask the question on Nigerian intelligence agencies, the intelligence arm of our security agencies. What are they doing to ensure
They
that this
know
doesn't happen?
they know the problems. They also know those who are causing the problems, and they know the solution, but they like the will to bring the solution.
You know, there is also the question of how these assailants acquired the sophistication to use aerial tactics, and whether any state apparatus is involved or complicit in this, and to what
There is
end.
there's an adage in Igbo land that says a son sent to go and rob by his father would break the door with his jackboot. That once you have the backing of a strong man, you don't look back when you are taking actions. So that answers the whole question. The government, and when you say government are the apex. Oh, when we're talking about stealing of the crude oil in the Niger Delta region, Mr. Peter Obi has asked that question. Is it the market woman that goes there to steal the crude? It is done by the high and mighty in the country. It's a racket, executive senior racket that ordinary small men don't get involved in. In fact, how can you? Somebody gives them the protection. Somebody applies the arms. Somebody does everything for them. When some bandits were arrested and they were looking hungry and tattered, Senator Shehu Sani asked that question. That these men don't look like people who make millions when they arrest, when they kidnap and apprehend the Nigerians and they receive the ransom. Meaning that the ransom is taken to somewhere, just like the when you see a cattle rearer moving along with 100 cattle, and you think they all belong to him, when the cattle rearer himself cannot afford ordinary 5,000 in his pocket, the cattle belong to somewhere, and then he is only working.
But
A lot
President
of these
Zako, what
are
would it
working
take?
for big men in the country.
What would it take to phase them out? Because Nigerians deserve to live in a country where devoid of these security or insecurity challenges, as the case may be, from one state to another. Even the states where the residents feel like they are secure are beginning to have these same challenges.
You must have had this for many times, that General Sani Abacha said sometime that any insecurity situation in any country that lasts beyond 48 hours, that the government knows what is going on. So the simple answer is that government knows what is happening. If you now ask me why won't they solve it, I have no answer to that, because you already know the answer yourself. Lack of political will. Lack of will to solve a problem is the same reason why Nigeria is where we are today. Nigeria is a country where you have people that are not Nigerians. Over 200 and something million people in Nigeria are non-Nigerians. I say this figuratively because I'm an Igbo man. Another person is a Yoruba man. The other one is a Hausa man. The other one is an Efik. How many of us are Nigerians in the real sense of it? How many leaders in this country are Nigerians? Until we have leaders who are Nigerians, Nigeria cannot heal. And that is why we talk about restructuring, so that we can at least come close to rearing citizens that love their country, and not people who see Nigeria as a field where they will go grab and take home. What is going on in Nigeria is that everybody is trying to see what he can grab and take home. The country is bleeding and nobody is patching up the wounds.
It's quite unfortunate, Barrister Fred and Zako, but we'll continue to hold the government of the day accountable. The security of lives and properties of Nigerians is
Therefore, as
non-negotiable.
long as the Constitution has said so, that the essence of government is for the protection of and the provision of security of life and property of the people. But how is it done? When people are killed, there's no day Nigerians are not killed in mindless orgy of killings. There's no day that passes. Out of the 365 or 360 days in a year, Nigerians are killed on a daily basis. And unfortunately, a lot of them go unreported. Unfortunately, we don't have adequate population census. Unfortunately, we don't know who are Nigerians and who are aliens. So when these kind of killings happen, they just wish it away and then sometimes bring a propaganda that they are killing Christians or they are killing Muslims. They are killing Nigerians. That is what is important, that they are killing Nigerians. And those who are killing Nigerians know what and why they are killing Nigerians. And those who are sending them to kill know that they are the ones sending them. And they are only making fiduciary profit out of the death of Nigerian people. Because in all of this, it is money that is involved. Money and power. Nothing more than that.
No matter how much these people are making, it cannot be equated to a human life, to the lives of Nigerians.
That is if those who kill people know that statement that you are making. And those who send them, if they understand that no amount of money will be equated to human life. And that at the end of the day, everybody that came with nothing would go back with nothing. Until they realize that, then we cannot build a country that will be egalitarian enough to accommodate everybody. The rest of the world is enjoying their lives, except Nigeria. Life expectancy has dropped. It used to be 70. It came down to 60, came down to 50. Today, life expectancy in Nigeria is about 53. So what does that tell you? That after 53, you are only living by the mercy of God. Whereas in other countries like Japan and the Asian countries, life expectancy is about 80, 85, 90. So what does that tell you? It tells you that Nigeria is worse than an animal kingdom. And it must be made to become a human kingdom, because what it is today is not a human kingdom. It is an animal.
In all of this, we'll still encourage Nigerians to have a positive outlook towards the country. Let's not be pessimistic towards the country to the extent that we start calling it an animal kingdom. We are humans and we live in Nigeria.
We are worse than those in the forest. I'm telling you this. We are worse. Because God gave us the sense of discernment, which we are not using. President Jonathan said that it is more difficult to wake up a man who is pretending to be asleep than to wake up a man who is naturally asleep. The countries that are creations of nature that do not have the kind of sensibilities of humanity are doing better than humanity that have refused to use their God-given sensibilities. That's exactly what we are seeing in Nigeria.
Vice President Zako, because of our time, we really need to go. But I must thank you for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. It's always a pleasure whenever we get to have these insightful conversations. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, sir. Many thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your day. You have been listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People on 90.3 FM. We've been speaking with legal luminary Barrister Fred and Zako on the issues on the World News at 6 this evening. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. We heard that Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have moved to expose Nigerian politicians accused of aiding bandits. Kwara community protests as residents allege strange helicopter dropped armed men before latest killings. Cut bars part Tommy from establishing shadow government, and Peter Obi to join ADC after Anambra Gubar elections. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6 on Voice of the People on 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent. Good evening and thank you for listening. Do stay tuned. The Evening Rush will be coming up shortly with Esther Wachko.